In our day, the attitude of the religious can be something that drives people away from God and away from the things of God. Because they look at them and they go, if that Pharisee is what a follower of God looks like, I don't want any of that. But Jesus came to include those who were outcast, include those who were excluded. There's no denying that in the life of Jesus, that the goodness and the mercy of God was on full display in his life over and over again, that he included those who had been excluded. You remember the story of him touching, Jesus touched the bleeding woman. In Mark 5, we don't need to turn to this. It tells of the woman who had the serious bleeding condition. Or in the King James, the New King James, it says about an issue of blood. She was hemorrhaging for some reason. We don't know the full truth of what it was, but we know she was hemorrhaging blood. She was bleeding. She had an issue of blood. She had sought help for 12 years. She had spent all that she had. It implies that maybe she'd born into a wealthy family and she spent money after money after money seeking help for her problem. She maybe had a business or a wealthy husband and she had been spending money, but all of the money she had spent had brought no relief. It hadn't helped her one bit. Her problem had just remained. It had stayed there, and it was a serious problem. Whatever it might be today in our day and age, there may have been a solution, but in those days there was none. The problem was with an issue of blood, according to the law in Leviticus 15, it tells us that it's a serious thing. That if you have an issue of blood like she had, that you are unclean before the law. And therefore, it also states that if you are in contact with someone, if you touch someone or they touch you, they are unclean also. Unclean before the law. So this woman would have been rejected by the religious elites, religious people, because she's unclean, stay away from us. And rejected by other people because they wouldn't want to be affected by that either and recognized as unclean. She'd have been shunned by the common man as well as by the religious man. Proclaimed unclean. Effectively, they would have pronounced that she was untouchable. Stay away, they would have said. Don't come near me. She'd have been restricted in access to people in social settings. People probably didn't even want to know her anymore. She was pushed away from those around her, her social life, her social circle, her community. She was ostracized. She was excluded. She would also have been, as a result of being ceremonially and unclean, she'd have been restricted on her access to the synagogue and to the temple. Shunned from the religious activities of the nation, of the people. Excluded from so many things and so many events. And you even think about the festivals that they have in Israel. The Passover, the Tabernacles. She wouldn't be able to take part in any of those things. Excluded over and over again. But when Jesus encountered this woman, when he encountered her and she touched the hem of his garment, his response to her actions was so different than any of the religious elite. So different. So different. You could see the religious elite. You know, she's reaching out, touched the hem of the garment. They would have been going, oh, stay away. Don't come here. Don't touch me. It's not what he did. He didn't try to get away from her. He didn't try to avoid her. He didn't try to do anything. He just stopped. He turned around and he addressed her. He said, who touched me? Who did this? He spoke with her. It tells us in Mark 5:34, his words to her. He says to her, after identifying her and what had happened, he says, my daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Be healed from your trouble. Be healed of your trouble. I think we underestimate how powerful that was to her, how significant that would be to her herself, to hear those words. Not just the fact that she had been healed, but that he addresses her. He doesn't use words that are, he's not accusing her of anything. He's not aggressive with her. He's not angry at her. He's not vicious. He's not going, I can't believe you've done that. He's not at all any of those things that she might have expected. Instead, he's compassionate and kind. And instead, his words are inclusive. He calls her daughter, my daughter. It's as if to acknowledge that now that she has been cleaned or cleansed or healed, now that she's been made well, now that time is over, now that you have been cleaned, you're now welcomed back into the family. You're now welcomed back into the community. You're now welcomed as one who is clean, as a normal person, as one of us. You're welcomed back into the family of God, into the family of Israel. And now you can go back to the temple. Now you can go back to the synagogue. Now you can take part in all of those festivals and all of those events that are so important and at the beating heart of the Israeli people or the Jewish people of those days. You're welcome, my daughter, come back. My daughter, you're welcome, you're saved, you're healed, I should say. Once again, free to take part in everything, from all the aspects of society to the religious activities and worshiping God. The wonder of it all. Go in peace rather than go in fear. Go rejoicing rather than go worrying. Go with a thankful heart rather than with a heavy one. What a wonderful Savior. What a wonderful Jesus. The more we read about the life of Jesus, we are blown away by realizing just how good he was, how gracious he was. Remember the time that he spoke to the man who was demon-possessed? You can read that in Mark 5, 1-20. Mark records that Jesus and the disciples, they crossed over the Sea of Galilee and they came to this place of the Gadarenes. And this area was part of what was known as the Decapolis, is one of the Greek cities that were placed throughout the area. The majority of the population was probably Gentile. We know that from the passage because if you know the story that there's a large herd of pigs nearby, of swine, animals which the law forbade Jews to have anything to do with. You can picture them as they arrive, as they came off the boats and they're starting to